Hey, good evening, guys. This week we're going to discuss elements of contemporary fiction, which to me has similar traits to what I like with my chosen genre, speculative fiction. But more often than not, the contemporary fiction deals more with a fictional setting, but without the angles of like magic or science fiction. There's no reason that contemporary fiction can't have some of those elements in it, but it tends to be more of a real world setting instead of a science fiction setting. I've written a couple of short stories that would fall into the adrenaline blend spectrum of contemporary fiction, so I'm also a fan of this genre. Um, we took a look at the adrenaline blends this week, and those books tend to be the ones that you can't put down because you're really sucked in the story. There can be lots of reasons, like the great characters, but often the reason they're called page turners comes down to plot and pacing. If the reader has to keep reading because they can't wait to find out what's going on or what happens next, then there's a good chance you're reading an adrenaline book. Those categories are like thrillers, adventures, suspenses, stuff like that. According to their reader's guide on genre blends, author Megan McArdle stated that tension-filled books are very popular, and they're also very plot dependent. And those characterize these genres of adrenaline books or blends. The thrillers are really popular. Most of the they said most of the New York Times bestsellers are thrillers. Um, I tend to like them. I'm a guy. I like explosions, fast cars, guns, things like that. Um, and I also like how you have the good guy, bad guy. You know who's the good guy and the bad guy. You don't have to figure that out. Um, and there's crime sometimes, and often the main character is just intent on stopping the bad guy, not necessarily worrying about justice. Um, Adventure books have a mission. They're very mission oriented, with the same moral dichotomy of a good guy, bad guy, and often have military or former military characters, actions, and jargons. Stuff like the shooter, things like that. Um, Good suspense stories usually have share criminal elements with thrillers, but they're smaller scale and they're less black and white on the morality of the main characters, common in inventions in adventure books. Suspense stories have fewer characters and the pacing's based more on a psychological tension rather than a physical adrenaline part. I'm a big fan of suspense and adventure genres. Just like a typical guy, I wonder if I could be that person. I always wanted to be Raymond Reddington in Blacklist because he dresses really cool and has that panache and style. Of course, it didn't hurt that James Spader's a great actor. So when I took a look at Feather Your Nest by Anne O'Brien this week, for me, I really liked it. She did an excellent job setting the story up, developing the scene, making me as a reader want to know what was going on. It wasn't a page turner like an action thriller, but I found myself feeling like I was a fly on the wall as the story unfolded. The small details were what kept me interested. Her references to Leonard Cohen's I'm Your Man was genius, in my opinion. If you've never heard that song, do yourself a favor, Google it, listen to it, and in my opinion, everyone should have at least a half dozen Leonard Cohen songs on their playlist rotation. Knowing the song like I did, it immediately brought a more sultry tone to the end of the story that wouldn't have been there without that reference. So what I took away from Feather Your Nest this week for my writer's toolbox was that little details matter, don't overdo them, and even if I'm subtle about them as a writer, put the characters in familiar situations, make the scenes familiar so the reader connects with the characters. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say this week.